different Seder than it is a Likkutei Torah, like I mentioned in the class. Midbar, Yishuv, Sadeh. What's Midbar? Midbar means a place without Tainuk. But Midbar, a place without Tainuk doesn't mean it has no Tainuk. It means it has no Gili of Tainuk because you have Atmos of Tainuk. And that's the avoid of Ma'aseh Mitzvahs. Bittul, Kabbalah Sale. Yishuv is a place where people live. This is the maximum Gili of Tainuk, it's Torah. Right? What's the Lashon? His gas atik bebina. And Sadeh is halfway. It's enough of life that has the shaykhs to Giluyim, but it's not such a center of life that you call it seichel, so it's kavanas mitzvahs. Now, in case you haven't figured it out yet, the vart is that the tachlis of Eretz Yisrael is to be a midbar. The tachlis of Eretz Yisrael is to be a place where you do mitzvahs with bittul and Kabbalah sale. Like I told you yesterday, the lashon that you have it in the Vakocha, for the Marash, Tafish Lamed Zayin. He has a different gears in the lashon Mishnah in the beginning of Avis. But also it says, Al tiyu kavod andamishamshin esarav amanas lekava pras. You shouldn't learn Torah mitzvah pras. El avoy kavod andamishamshin esarav shalei amanas lekava pras. You should serve your master not for schar. The Reb Marash brings a girsa al manas shalei lekava pras. You don't want pras. Schar mitzvah. So the tachlis of Eretz Yisrael is to be Eretz Canaan. How does it say Eretz Canaan? Hachnoah. He doesn't say Canaan Lashon Tager, like Rashi says in Chumash. Bittul. So the tachlis of Eretz Yisrael, there should be a midbar l'mayus. Not a Yishuv, and not a Sadeh, a midbar, right? That's the tachlis. We haven't learned this yet, but you can smell it out. The Chosh HaReich tells you that this is the direction. Correct? Mm-hmm. Now let's learn the beginning. Go back to page Lamazan. Let's read the Kashas, and then we'll learn the Terutzim, and you'll see right what's going on. Moshe Rabbeinu was ready for Eretz Yisrael to be a midbar. And the Meraglim was saying, whoa, I still need Giluyim. Yes? Moshe Rabbeinu is ready that every Yid should be like him. How is he? He serves the Eibush with a bit like a Balasel, doesn't need any Giluyim. Dichalei. And the Menachem was saying, wait a minute, I like to learn Torah, I like to experience Torah L'ki. You understand? This is the story. Right? We're good, yes? We're good. So let's learn. Let's start with first of all the phrase, let me say. It says in the Pasuk, Shlachacha Anosh. Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, send Anoshim, spies for you. And of course, Rashi says, the Daitacha. Ani Einim Mitzvah Eisacha. If you want, send Menachem. The Yasuru is Eretz Canaan. They should reconnoiter Eretz Yisrael. They should do spying in Eretz Yisrael. Now the word Yasuru means to spy. It does mean that word, Losor Eretz. But there's more than one word that means to spy. I mean, the ordinary word for espionage is a meragel, not a meisir with a tof, right? A meragel is a spy. Somebody who walks around still at hate. Right? Like you have by Lashon Hara, yeah? Lashon Hara also ashushkere. Right? What is he called? Heilach Rachel, right? So Rashi says Heilach Regel. Heilach Regel, I get in the feast. So the right word for somebody who's ashushke, someone who's looking for the secret information is a meragel. Here, it's the Yasur. So the Rebbe has many kashas. Tzarich lahavin, question number 1. Ma'u inyan, page Lamed Zayin. Beginning in a Maimer. Yeah. Ma'u inyan shlichus ha-meragel. B'chlal, why you have to have the shlichus? B'chlal. Halei klolus inyan kvisha ha'aretz. All of us understand that the conquering of Yisrael in general, there's nothing natural about it. And why do you have to have the shlichus b'chlal? Conquering Eretz Yisrael, by the way, it says in Chazal, this is Sfarim, that if Moshe Rabbeinu takes in into Eretz Yisrael, there's not even going to be Milchama. They're just going to walk in, and the Menagel, the Knana are somehow going to not be a problem. The only reason I have to fight Machon is because Moshe Rabbeinu made, so Yeshua Machnisam Loretz. So the whole conquering of Eretz Yisrael was Anya Nisi. So why do you have to send spies? Why? Now, of course, the klotz teretz to this klotz kasha is that everything has to have an achiz and teva. That's how they say that. You're going to make taka a nest, but whatever you can do, apideva you have to do. I was once in Montreal. I heard the story before. I heard the Maisa Friyat. And then I was in Montreal, and I heard the story mamish directly from the Bala Maisa. And after Lochas, I don't remember it. Genoy. I don't remember it. Pratis. But close, I remember it. We started at Fabringen. In Montreal, there's a professor whose name is Brouwer. Professor Brouwer is around my father's age. I mean, he's closer to 90 than to 80. The Rebbe said he has three professors. In other words, three shluchim was Indian is the Ilma Made. Yeah? One of them was Chaneke, one of them was Brouwer, and the third is from Europe. Forgetting them nomen. No, Block is a generation before. They were yeshiva at the same time. The third, I just spoke to his son today. Green? He lives in Europe. Myers. When the Rebbe called them three professors, they were not professors, they were still students. He's a Chassid Shehid, Brouwer. And he only went to college and went into biology and became a professor because that was his shlichus. So when he finished school, he wrote to the Rebbe that he has three universities that are offering him a job. I think one of them was even in California, a famous school in the Northern California. No, a very good school in California. Yes, a very famous, like an Ivy League school. He had three offers, and one of them was McGill in Montreal, Stanford University. The Rebbe didn't answer right away. It took a few days, and the Rebbe told him to go to McGill. He always took it, and this is a shlichus, living in Montreal. Not one of his children lives in Montreal, and he doesn't leave. The Rebbe sent Montreal to be a professor. He sits on Teachers Samach Vov. That's what he does. So his daughter-in-law used to come to my class in 770. So she told me the story. Then I was in Montreal, and I davened in the shul together with him. So I asked him to. But the story was that after Chavei Shvat, it could be even after Gimel Tammuz, it came to his attention, mamish by mistake, from one of his students, that he heard from the president of the university that when he was contemplating coming to McGill, the Rebbetzin called up the school to ask about the school, about professorship terms. In other words, he heard about the Maaseh probably close to 30 years after it happened. He went there in the late Chofs, he heard about it in the late Nuns. So he went over to the president, who was still alive. He said, "You don't know the story?" A lady named Mrs. Schneerson called. She spent 45 minutes on the phone. And she asked about tenure, and about sabbatical, and about publishing rights. And he said this lady understood universities. She knew the Olam college. She asked the right questions. She was asking questions like a mother. She wanted to know that the school is going to look after him. Anyway, so the Rebbe waited a couple of days to give him an answer. Why? Because the Rebbe said, Pusha did research. You have to assume that if he called McGill, he called the other two schools also. So he says, the Rebbe always wanted information. So he told the story in great detail. The Rebbe always wanted information. Then he made the decision on Ruach HaKodesh. But first he got to have information.
His name is Brouwer?
Brouwer himself.
Oh, no, but he's not from...
He's a shliach.
Oh, so why is he a Rebbe?
Because that's about tshuva.
Oh, about tshuva, yeah.
But he's been in the Lubavitch his whole... He says, the Rebbe always wanted Yeda. You know that he told once the Rebbe, Velvel Green, everybody says the Rebbe, Ruach HaKodesh, why do I have to tell him? The Rebbe says, Zol zizog, v'zizog, and do to Maganai. The Rebbe wanted B'derech HaTev as much as possible, and then he put on the antenna, and he did what he had to do. But Koydem Kol, I think he collected Yeda. He wanted to know. Viful Meken Dafman. And that's the push to tennis to the Kasha. Einach inami, conquering Yetzer Yisrael is b'derech nes, especially if Moshe Rabbeinu is going to do it. But the whole, why do you have to have Meraglim? You have to go b'derech HaTeva. But the Rebbe Rashab is saying, no, not then. The Rebbe Rashab is being shoylo the teres I'm giving you. He's saying the idea that the way it's understood, the Pshuta shall make. That even when the Eibush is going to make a nest, you have to go b'derech HaTeva. The Rebbe Rashab says, I don't like that. No, that's not the reason. It's not enough. At that time, if Moshe Rabbeinu was machnas in Eretz Yisrael, you don't even need a kli in teva. That's what his kasha is. So the first question, who needs a shlichus b'klal? If the conquest was in a natural way, it makes sense to reconnoiter, to spy first. Lay the take of Medina to know the hardness and the strength of the country. In other words, where their logistics are, where their bases are, where their fortifications are, where their big guns are. The easiest way to be able to conquer. From the conquering Yisrael. Even this vod that you have to make a clientele for the nest also doesn't hold. Why do you have to send spies? That's the first kash. So the question is, why would the meraglim send? Gam, question number 2. Why do you use the lashon v'yasuda, which means to spy? The normal lashon for spying is a meragel. Right? It says in Sefer Yeshua that Yeshua benin said Shnei Noshim Meraglim, right? The Emes says he can bring an eye from Chumash itself. That it says in the end of Pashas Chukas that Moshe Rabbeinu sent Shluchim Leragel es Yazer v'yil Kedua. It's one of the coolest stories in the Torah that nobody notices. Moshe Rabbeinu sent a few chevre to Ragel to spy out Yazer. So instead of spying it out, they just conquered it. the spies went on a shlichus to see the land, and they figured we're here already. Rashi points it out. They didn't come back and report. They just conquered themselves. So you already have in Chumash that a spy means a meragel. Still, he brings an eye from Yeshua. Okay, Akasha. So that's the second question. The lashon v'yasud. V'hinei meish amalem gimel dvarim liris. Moshe Rabbeinu instructed them to examine 3 things. Aleph es ha'am, the people. Okay, and I'm going to say it straight. Means Yishuv. Beis, ha'aretz atzma, the earth itself, like it says in the ha'aretz. And again, I'm going to cheat and tell you that means midbar. And Gimel ha'arim, and the third is the cities, and I'm going to tell you this means Sadeh. I'm just telling you up front where we're going. These are the kashas. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu asking them to specifically observe these 3 madregas, the physical phenomena? And he adds, it says 3 times, Maha'aretz, Maha'arim, Umaha'am. Why do you have to have 3 times the word ma? Those are the kashas. Okay? So how many questions do we have? We have 4. Why do you call it Yasuru? Why did he tell them to examine these 3 particular parts of Eretz Yisrael? And why does it say 3 times? Now we go to the end of the mind. In the last class, which was yesterday, we learned that there's 3 madregas Eretz Yisrael. The highest madrega of Eretz Yisrael, let's put it this way, there's 3 madregas of Yiddishkeit. The highest madrega of Yiddishkeit is Midbar. Midbar means no giluyim, just atzmos. You don't even have tainug begilui, only tainug atzmos. And in Avedas ha'adam, that's mitzvahs maisis with Kabbalah sel bitl. Then you have Yishuv, the city, that's Teira, which is Pnimius and Giluyim. And then you have Sadeh, and Sadeh is Kavanas HaMitzvahs, correct? So the Rebbe says, use this Hakdam in the first half of Perek Chof to explain Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael can have 3 madregas. Eretz Yisrael can have a madrega, which is the madrega of Kavanas HaMitzvahs, meaning that you're serving the Eibishter in a way that you have to have an Eidel Leki, and the Eidel Leki is a Shvacha Eidel Leki. Yeah? You could be living in an Eretz Yisrael, where the Ikir of Eretz Yisrael is Teireh, where you have an Eidel Leki, but the Eidel Leki is Beslapshus in the land completely. And you can have an Eretz Yisrael with no Giloyim at all. You can have an Eretz Yisrael, this Madrega of Midbar, where every Yid has reached the Madrega of I don't need Schar, I don't need even the Schar of Giloyim, and I'm bottled the Eibishter completely and serving the Eibishter. Right? And that's why it's called Knan Lashon Achno. Machon? Hello? Yeah. So this is what's going on. The first half of this Perek Chof is setting up the answers to the kashas. Yidden are going into Eretz Yisrael. And Moshe Rabbeinu sent Meraglim. And the whole issue is about what kind of avodah Yidden are ready to do in this land. So look inside. Bottom of page Mem Beis says the Rebbe of a Neda, 3 lines from the bottom. It may be true that the highest madrega in Eretz Yisrael is midbar. The highest madrega in Eretz Yisrael is doing mitzvahs, ma'ases with Kabbalah Sel, where the Rebbe's lashon inside is. What's the Rebbe's lashon inside? Ein bazeh tainug. 2 lines later he says that there's tainug atzmi abilti murgish, but tainug begiloi there isn't. Everything is atzmus. Says Rebbe Machon tzarich li is giluyim gamkin. The Emes says, hey, for Eretz Yisrael to work, you can't just march into Eretz Yisrael and be holding by the madrega of midbar. You should know 2 things. Number 1, the simplest avoid in the world is Kabbalah Sel. And number 2, the most impossible avoid in the world is Kabbalah Sel. It's not complicated. But why should I do what you said? I probably told you the story a few times already, that the Rebbe once said to Moshe Talashevsky's father, by Akofa, Simchas Teda, as it was a Chibur Kulin. It was in the Mems, the guy was in his 80s.
So what?
You should make a somersault. So he said to the Rebbe Favos. So the Rebbe said, because I said so. So he did it. The hardest thing is to do something because somebody else says. It's a fact of life. The tachlis of Eretz Canaan is that we should have a relationship with the Eibishter that's based entirely on Achna. The whole relationship is the Eibishter says jump, we say how high. But to start that way is hard. And that's what the Rebbe now says. You have to have oir. You have to have what's called Gili Atayim. You have to have a hasaga. You have to have there has to be in your avodas Hashem the possibility that you should experience schar. You should experience pras. You should experience edeliki as a motivation to go from a lower level, like the Rambam writes in the Cheshire Perek Yud, that the Noshim and Stamam Haaretz and Ktanim, they serve the Eibishter Miyira, right? The whole avodas Hashem is Amanas Lakab Pras, and he brings Lashna Mishneh Amru Chachamim that in that you should start doing the Aveda Amanas Lakab Pras, and then V'Yisrabu Daitom, and that you come to the Madregi when they serve the Eibishter Shalem Amanas Lakab Pras, right? In Cheshire Perek Yud, when Ram talks about Aveda Miyira. So at Yisrael needs Gilui. Why does Yisrael need Giluyim? Because Yidden need Giluyim.
So Giluyim are the Meraglim?
So the Giluyim are the Meraglim. The inyan of sending Meraglim is everybody knows that it's Yisrael, that it's Canaan. What's as Canaan? Hachnoah. What's as Canaan? That it's enough to have Bittul and Kabbalah Sel, you need no Giluyim. Why? You have Atzmus. I'm a Chai Atzmus. But Atzmus is hard. Atzmus is very hard. Bittul is the hardest thing in the world. So Ameli is send Meraglim, and the in the Meraglim is Oyer. Everybody knows that when something grows out of the earth, the koyah for that growth comes from the earth itself. Right? Now this is a ganze kled. This is against the Kedesh in Tanya Simen Ches, which speaks about this. There's a Hemshech Aranat which speaks about this. Samach Samach Zayin speaks about this. And you have this in Barichas and the Mitler Rebbe and Sharei Emunah. The tzmicha has to do with the maimenase that your aretz. It doesn't grow because you plant a seed. It grows because the Eibush should put a bracha in the earth that things should grow. The seed is only a seidus, and the geshem is only a seidus. The maimer tacha haaretz, the Eibush should put in the earth a koyach of creating new life, renewal of agriculture, of plants and seeds and grain and alakut zachen is in the earth. Says the Rebbe, still it says, it's not going to grow if it doesn't rain. Right? It's interesting, they don't speak about the seed, they speak about the rain. What's this Erusa the Liela, which is made, what his odorous from outside the earth triggers that the earth should produce life? It doesn't say the seed, it says the rain. Mitzvah is atzmos. Mitzvah is bittul. Correct? But when you do a mitzvah with bittul, you don't experience anything, you just have bittul. So there's a special inyan that when you do a mitzvah, you should say Torah. The Torah is the gili of the atzmos of that mitzvah.
Wait, why do you need the gili if you have that?
Because you have to have both. Now, there's a lot of explanations for why. The one I'm giving you is because the only way to get to the Atzmos is to have Giluyim. Yeah. What's the first dogma for this? What's the first dogma for this idea? Come here. The Wilson is the darfst nicht, aber sterben nicht. Hello. Where does this begin? That when you do a mitzvah, you have to have also psukim. Mitzvahs bikurim. Mitzvahs bikurim. And you could say the same thing about Vidi Maisa. It's not much the same thing. You could say about Ragod Shal Pesach. Mitzvahs bikurim is a mitzvah say that I to bring fruit to the Beis HaMikdash, and then you have to say psukim. So it says in my modern, every mitzvah is atzmos. And Teda is gilu. So when you bring bikurim, you also say psukim, that there should be a gilu atzmos. Now there's different ways of explaining gilu atzmos. La'asad lavi, we're going to explain it at a higher level. The pshat of here is the gilu to bring you to the atzmos. And you should know that doesn't go to Teda in Bereshis. Lahav and Inyan HaBrachas, the whole idea of every bracha before every mitzvah, that's the Teda before the mitzvah. When you do a mitzvahs are atzmos. It's the highest thing. But for atzmos, you have to have bittul. So you help the bittul along with a little gilui, and the gilui is the bracha.
You're helping the bittul with gilui?
That's right. You're helping yourself reach the readiness for a bittul through oir.
So, okay, atzmos doesn't need gilui to get to atzmos. You need gilui.
That's right. That's right.
So why don't we... Okay,
Right. Now wait, now what are the other examples for this? The psukim of Tkiyah Shefer. You're learning some above. Some of the psukim are before, there's some of the psukim are after, and there's a whole pilpul. But the nekuda is you don't just blow the shefer, you also say psukim. And the other example, which is brought down by Chassidus, it's the 17 psukim of Atarei, that goes along with the hakafas. You're doing a mitzvah is an Inyan Atzmi, but you also say psukim. And again, Beperatius is true in every mitzvah. The Alter Rebbe in Teirei Bereshis explains the Inyan Brachas in this way, Beklolos. So the Rebbe's Lashon is, Mikol Mokem Tzrichem Liyaz Giluyim Gamkin, 3 times in the bottom of the page. And the parenthesis it brings is Galos HaMitzvah the Atera. Now there's a lot of ways of explaining this Galos HaMitzvah. If you look at the end of Ranat, and Roshana Hemshech Ranat, he explains that the Atzmos itself should be, but there's a lot of ways of explaining it. There's a Gili which is after the Atzmos. Here, the Gili is before the Atzmos. If I'm going to do a mitzvah like a Kabbalah sale, I need to have a Geshmak first. Because I have no Geshmak, I'm just not going to do it. I have to,
The Gili doesn't equal the Geshmak. No.
The Gili equals as much Geshmak as could be Beis Galos. Gili means the man of Asag, of course it means Galos, Atik Babina.
And you're saying the psukim you get.
Oyer. Teira oyer. Or you want to know how it is practically? Okay. But that's the Indian B'chalif. The same is also true. Last line on page Membe says, Yia Gila the Maisa mitzvahs mitzvahs mitake. The amitis hadover is mitzvahs mitzvahs. The highest Indian is doing mitzvahs with a bit like Kabbalah said. But in order for those mitzvahs to be Beis Galos, and again, you could say it in 2 ways. But the way we're going to say it, to motivate you to do the mitzvahs in the first place, tzarachli, as we call mokem, you have to have, in any case, you with me? Hamshach asmat chil, an arouser from above. Dalid is dechura, lashon zachar, and nun is nukva lashon nekev. You have to have a serusa d'liyela first, which is gilui eir. You have to have giluyim. You have to have a geshmak. You have to have an understanding. You have to have something that makes you feel good. And a days a year, a lost man, it's going to be made in you, or in this case, it's going to be made in Eretz Yisrael. Ma'isa ha-mitzvahs mitzvah, doing the mitzvahs with a bitl and a Kabbalah sale. But you have to have Giluyim to get you the Atzma. Zog the Rebbe, Vezeh, Hoya, Inyan, Shaluach, Meraglim, Nosar says Kanan. The Meraglim were not sent to spy. The Meraglim were sent to bring a Geshmak out of Eretz Yisrael. Losor es haaretz, to come back and say the milos of Giluyim in Eretz Yisrael. The Atzmos they'll find out. But before you're going to get to the Atzmos, which in Aveda Sa'odim is an Aveda Bittel, the Meraglim have to come back and report the milos of Eretz Yisrael on a level of Hergish, on his Galos Atik Bebina. Lahamche Bechinas Amshachas Ma, the Meraglim are going to come back and then they're going to report how wonderful the land is. They're going to bring a light into the land and into the Jewish people. Le'eres halos man the others that Eretz Yisrael, which is called Eretz Canaan, Lashon Hachna, is going to be me'ered Yidden the avoid of bit submission. And he concludes the paragraph. Tachlis hakavana he, the end purpose is Chassidus Pel Mamish, Kabbalah Sel Mitzvahs. Shebezeh Davka Yisn Er Kanal. You want to reach the highest aid. Do mitzvahs with a Kabbalah Sel. Rub your hand on the table, and he repeats Vezehu Shenikra Eretz Canaan. That's why it's called Loshen Canaan. Tachavan Hiachniya, the submission, the bending. Bekiyam mitzvahs bepel mamish dafke. The ikir is doing mitzvahs with a bittul and a Kabbalah Seil. But in order to reach the madrega where you're prepared, where I'm prepared for bittul and Kabbalah Seil, the madrega of Atzmas, you have that first Giluyim. But it only works if first have Giluyim. So Moshe Rabbeinu sent spies. And the kavanah of these spies was to bring into the shlichus of Eretz Yisrael something which is even Giluyim. And later, when they're going to get to Eretz Yisrael, they're going to go from the Giluyim to the Gilui Atzmos in their own Avayda and in the Eretz Yisrael v'chuli. If a state, and they continue v'hine Hamaraglim hoyu b'chenas hasaga v'gili ataynu. The madreg of the Meraglim was that they want to understand Torah. They want to experience the pleasure of Yiddishkeit. They like Giluyim.
Sorry. You said that they went to get check 3 things, right? The 3.
Could you have patience?
Sorry.
I told you to learn it.
I know I did, but that's why I have a question. Yeah, you'll see. Okay.
No, I won't see. You'll see. V'zehu she'emer akoso b'hem ish echad lamati. One person from each shevet. In other words, Bechinas is Chalkos. There were 12 Shvatim, 12 Meraglim from 12 spies who were different personalities. Why? On Atzmos were all equal. In Giloyim we're all different. The emphasis of the 12 Meraglim are from 12 Shvatim is to bring out the point that the Inya they represented is something where Reuven is one thing, and Shimon is the second thing, and Levi is the third thing, and Yehuda is the fourth thing, and that's only in Giloyim. The Bahasaga Yesh Chalukim Madregas is going to talk about understanding and experiencing tiny to different Madregas. Ubederach Klal, Hu Shebechinas HaGilim Bechinas Chalkos. I mean, you see, I'm saying the words of the Maimer. I actually looked inside, I read it, and I'm just telling you the words. Everything I'm saying, steht in a wenig, on Lomdus. But that was because of Yasudu. So that's answer the first kasha, right? 4 kashas. The first question is, why do you have to send Meraglim B'chal? The whole conquest of Eretz Yisrael is a nest. It tells Meraglim to bring an oil into Eretz Yisrael. There should be a yin of Giluyim also. As the stage setter, as they asserted us, that when Yidden come into Eretz Yisrael, they'll reach the Madreg of Eretz Canaan, Lashon Achna, which is the Ma'ila of Atzmos. But you have to have Giluyim first. And that's why it says the Yasudu, because Yasudu is Lashon.
Why do you need Giluyim first for that?
To bring you to the Madreg of Bittul and Kabbalah Seil.
How does it do that?
Huh?
How does it do that? How does getting Giluyim bring you to
The hardest thing in the world is to do what you're told just because you're told. If there's a reward, if there's a payback, there's a pleasure in it, there's a joy in it. It makes it a little easy.
And that's not Kabbalah Seil.
That's not Kabbalah Seil. So the Torah says, you start off with Giluyim to reach the Madrega of Kabbalah Seil, to reach the Madrega of Atzmos. So the ultimate end is that Eretz Yisrael called Eretz Canaan, the Avodah, and Eretz Canaan is Bittul and Kabbalah Seil. The Meraglim were there to bring a Gili as a chona to the Atzmos. You understand? There's a motivation. And that's why it says the Yesuru is Lashon Yisr. Yesuru means to spy, to reconnoiter. But it translates Lashon Yisr an extra advantage. It brings the knife in a medrash. On the pasuk with Losur b'chochma laheseh b'chochma, to increase in chochma. Hainakavana was Elias mizeh hayisein ba'aretz, to add to the eretz b'bechinas halos man shebakeach atzma. You want to bring out of the earth its halos man, which is what the eretz is itself, which is the madrega of midbar. But in order to do this, you have to have a yisr neveir. So the word yasuru means extra light. And l'chayra the vart is, the way you would translate v'yasuru in this pasuk correctly is giluyim for the sake of atzmos. V'yasuru, they're going to bring giluyim. So there should be the advantage of eretz, of atzmos. That's how you touch it. Their oil is going to bring something which is higher than it. It's a good. Yeah, we know why we said Meraglim, and we know why it says the Lashon v'yasura, right? What's the problem? The problem is the Meraglim didn't want to give up on the Giluyim. And Moshe Rabbeinu had no patience. He wanted the Atzmos right away. That's where the trouble was. They were going too slow, and Moshe was going too fast, and between the two of them, the whole situation plots. How so? Moshe Rabbeinu ha'ibechinas ma. Moshe Rabbeinu's madrega of ma. What's ma? Bittel. V'nachnu ma le'alinos le'nesechem ki mas bittel atzmi. So Moshe Rabbeinu has no patience. He wants to get straight to the Atzmos. He wants to get straight to the Madrega, where every Yid is a Madrega, every Pashat. Just do mid, because the Eibishter said that's called mid b'del mal yusar. It's the highest Madrega. There's no schar, there's no pras, there's no Giloyim Atzmos. You have to first have Giloyim before Atzmos. Moshe is rushing it. Gecha, let's get over it. He wants no tainuk. Rak ba'aveda tama. Hanal. He wants what's called in this moment Aveda Tama. This lashon Aveda Tama is an interesting lashon. Aveda Tama in Gemara. I once learned in Tafshin Ayin. It's 15 years ago. Tafshin Ayin was the 250 years in the Baal Shem Tov, right? So I gave a few shurim on Tzavos Rivash, maybe even earlier. And the first few Maimorim in Tzavos Rivash, in Tafshin Chaf, 50 years before, the Rebbe spoke Sichas on them. Around before Tafshin Chaf, they had a very big shurim about the Baal Shem Tov. And the Rebbe spoke a few Sichas on the Tzavos Rivash on the Baal Shem Tov. And in one of them, you have a lashon from the Baal Shem Tov, one of the earliest Maimorim of the Baal Shem Tov, Aveda Tama. So the Rebbe explained them that Aveda Tama is halach in Pigul, which is in today's Chita. Aveda Tama means Aveda she'ein acharei Aveda. Right? There's 4 Avedas. There's Shchita, there's Kabbalah, there's Halacha, there's Rika. Right? By a mincha there's Kmitza, there's Kiddush, there's Hiluch, and then you put on everything is thrown. Even the meat was not put on the Zbech, it was thrown on the Zbech. It was a special mitzvah of Zrika. The halacha is that the machsheva paiselas for pigul, where chayav kodesh has to be in the zrika. Means if you shecht an animal, and you're thinking that when you're going to be carrying the animal's blood to the mizbeach, you're going to be thinking that we're going to be able to eat this meat for 2 days. That's not pigul. It only works if you're thinking when you're shechting it that I'm going to sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach. I'm going to be thinking that this carbon eat for 2 days. That makes it pigul. Why? Because the halach of pigul is it only becomes pigul for chayav kodesh if it's aveda tama, avoda she'ein acharei avoda. So in Tanya Perek Tezvav he brings avoda tama lebenyani is a benyani with betachas hashleimus, moichin and midas and the whole business. Yeah, he's talking about. There's another place in Tanya we have avoda tama, and I can't remember where it was. So the Rebbe says a yid goes into Yisrael. What's avoda tama? Shalei amas a kapah pras. Avoida she'ein acharei avoda. What's the highest madrega being a yid? Ich will Gott nicht. Ich will dich allein. Schar mitzvah, heya mitzvah atzma. Right? That's the tachlis. Avoda tama. Moshe Rabbeinu, what's avoda tama now? And the Meraglim is saying, was halsach. Giluyim is so geschmack. And Moshe Rabbeinu says to pras. You know what says Chassidus about the word pras? Anybody know? Was steht in my Morech Chassidus wegen pras? Loshem prusas at zerbrochene Stück. You want a broken piece or you want a ganze Meise? That's what you want. So this is the trouble. The Meraglim want to enjoy the Geluim as long as possible. And Moshe wants Atzmus now. That's such a Aveda Tama. You understand? Look inside. Moshe Rabbeinu hoye bechinas ma. It's 5 lines into the middle paragraph. Shalai Ratza b'shum Tainig. He wants no Tainig in the Madrega of his Galasatak. He only wants Tainig atzmi abilti murgish v'milti murk of Klau. In other words, Rak Aveda Tama Hanal, which is the Madrega of Midbar. Ma'isa HaMitzvahs Onagishma. V'ratza Laviyim Gamkin the Madrega. So he wanted every year to go into Yisrael right away and behold in the Madrega what's called in this Maimed the Aveda Tama of Moshe Rabbeinu. Bitlan Kabbalah Sel Tmimus. I want nothing except to do a mitzvah. I want no schar. Amanas tulei lekabel pras. V'zeu shekosov. And this is the pshat in the pasuk. V'isem es ha'aretz. Go check out the land. Right? And he says 3 times. Ma ha'aretz, ma ha'arim, and ma ha'am. What's made ma? Bring bittul into aretz. Bring bittul into and bring bittul into Orim. Verstehst? There's 3 madregas. There's Midbar. It's called Eretz. There's Yishuv, which is called Am. And there's Sadeh, which is called Ir. Bring Ma into each one. In other words, get through the Giluim so fast that when we walk across the Yad that Yisrael, every Yid is ready for Atzmas. V'choshev Eretz.
Maz Bittel or Maz Gluim?
Maz Bittel.
So when they were going to check out Gluim, no?
He says to bring Bittel into Gluim. Moshe Rabbeinu has no patience. He's sending the Meraglim for Gluim. But he says, let's get over this, man. This is nonsense. This is Amnas Kabbalah Pras. Let's get straight to the Ma. Moshe is pushing the Meraglim. When you listen to this Maimon, you understand what's going on. Moshe has no patience, and the Meraglim want Moshe to slow down, and it platzes. Maha Arim, Maha Aretz, Maha Am. Forget about Giluyim.
Why did you bring Am into Aretz? I mean, Ma into Aretz. If Aretz is already...
Okay, that question I don't have an answer for. Let's first learn. V'choshiv Eretz Arim Am, which is Midbar Yishuv Sadeh. Eretz is Midbar. Erev is Machon Mishab in the Yadam. And Am, I had it backwards, is Madrega B'chusa Shtogim Ma'at, which is Infan Kavanus HaMitzvahs. So there's two Madregas of Giluyim, which is Am and Arim. Huh? Am is Sadeh. There's one Madrega of Atzmus, which is Eretz, but Moshe says Ma 3 times. It's not enough that you have Ma in the union of Eretz, which is B'yat. Some even Atzmus, you have to have Ma in the Giluyim also. Ubakul Omemer Ma. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't say once, but 3 times Ma. Shakavana. Moshe Rabbeinu's kavana is Sheyu b'chinas bittul the midbar, that Sai in the union of midbar of Yisrael, Sai in the union of Yishuv Yisrael, and Sai in the union of Sod of Yisrael. There should be Ma right away. So he's sending Meraglim, whose union is Giluyim, that they should graduate to Atmos Mamish Toish Kidei Dibur. He's pushing them. V'ameraglim leirotzu b'achno bittul zeh. The Meraglim wanted Eretz Yisrael, but they wanted to enjoy Eretz Yisrael. A bissel Giluyim, a bissel Geschmack. The Moshe says, Ma, schneller. Let him out, no? Let him risk it. V'lachein b'alkein heitzivu dibas ha'aretz v'geiva. They spoke Lashon Hara against the Eretz. They spoke Lashon Hara against the avoid of Kabbalah Sale. If you're not going to have Giluyim, if you're not going to have Mashke, you're not going to have Fabringins, you're not going to go on Mivtzoyim. You need Giluyim, you need Lachluchis, you need Tumu. Moshe says, doch Bobbe Meises. Tonight's my Shver's yard site. So the Shir is Chus Leilu Nishmas. I have 3 yard sites on the same day. A father-in-law, a grandfather-in-law, and a great-great-grandfather. Moshe Reb Nissen is my father-in-law. Nissen Reb Yitzchak is my father-in-law's father. And Yisrael Alevi Reb David Abale is my great-grandfather. All the same yard site. That's it. My Zaydi Shusman yard site is Chabezi in a couple of weeks. So he was the printer for the Rebbe. So in Tavshis, a lot of people have this story. The Rebbe used to make a fabringen every Chalamed Sukkos, Simchas Beis Sheva, with Mitam America, for Talmidei Yeshivas. And the other yeshivas used to come in those days. And the Rebbe sat a whole night in Geret Nigla. They came from Chaim Berlin, they came from Terev Das, they came to Yerushalayim. They had a whole day, it was like a Kiddush Torah. All the yeshivas came together in those days. And the Rebbe would fabring. But Zaidi Schusterman and Label Groner were busy. I need 3 minutes. We're busy with the Maimer. They were typing the Maimer for Simchas Torah, Tafshin Yud. So they missed the fabringen. So Zaidi Schusterman said to the Rebbe, or Label Groner said to the Rebbe, we worked on the Maimer and we missed the fabringen, Lo Manigar. So without a hesitation, okay, it's fabringen hat noch einmal. And there was a second fabringen. That second fabringen is one of the most important fabringens. It was before the Rebbe was still alive. The Rebbe Gnum Mashke, he drank his Saul Jacobson under the table. The Rebbe took Onashem Mashke. They were Giluyim like you never saw. So Given Gilui. It was Tafshin Yud. The second. And the Rebbe started, was saying, Nacht zan Given Azelcha Yidin was Mekenev Ze Zogar Rachmana Leflat. That's when the fabringen started. Nacht zan Given Azelcha Yidin was Mekenev Ze Zogar. That's when there was fabringen was more than the Giluyim. But the Rebbe turned to Label and to Machon. So I'm listening an Eden, said to them, Ich bin rein zum Schwer. Und ich habe sie gesagt, als Mottel und Label gearbeitet auf ein Maimer. Und der Schwert gehafen mir nach Ruach. Verbringen fällt euch aus. I went to the Fiedike Rebbe, and I told him that Label and Mottel worked on the Maimer. The Rebbe had a little nachas. You need my Verbringen. Giluyim fällt euch aus. But the Chatzmus. And the Meraglim was saying, whoa, slow down. It's a shame of Meise. Akavod, as Meisha Hoyo leads because Bitlan al Meisha wanted the Yidden should be holding by Atzmas right away. The whole point of Meraglim was taking Giluyim. But the point of the Giluyim is to reach Atzmas. And Moshe didn't want to wait to Mashiach. He wanted Gel Edition, Gel Ach, and take off Mayad Mamish. Versteht? V'zel v'yasura loshen yisen. Yisen means that they should bring Giluyim to be megal the mile of Atzmos, and that's going to be the Yisrael. And the Menaglim wanted to slow it down. It's a beautiful pshat in the pasuk. Here's the only issue that I have. I mean, only issue. Many issues. This is one of the issues. This Maimer speaks of the mile of Atzmos over Giluyim. The whole point of the Ayin Bey is that the Atzmos, that Giluyim, brings it to Atzmos. Eir Pnimi, Eir in Keli, Pnimi B'yetzim. So this has the siyum of the Maimer, which is a part of Ayin Bey, seems to be going against the overall thrust of the Hemshech. I told this yesterday in class also. It's funny.
It seems like that's exactly what he's saying.
That what?
The Meraglim to go to get Giluyim to go down.
Yeah, but we say that there's a mile in Gili itself.
I'm a little confused.
I'm sorry?
Giluyim takes you to Atzmos, no?
Right. But in the Ayin Beis, Gilu gets you the Gili of Atzmos. Ayin Beis holds that from Eir Mamale you have Atzmos Mamish and a way of Gili in Kalim. And you feel it, not you don't feel it. To me, it's a contradiction. I mean, you can disagree, but to me, it's a contradiction.
What's that? The point, you said that you need Giluyim to get the Atzmos, right?
I didn't say that.
So the Gemara said that, right? So what was, so the Meraglim wants to stop by Giluyim?
Yep. At least in the meantime, let's wait 3,000 years. Mashiach had come out, and Moshe says, "We want Mashiach now." He's pushing them. You can almost understand what happened. Moshe pushed them. They platzed.
Moshe knew that.
Yeah, but he wanted 2 seconds of Giluyim. That's it.
Why they should tell him Shachcha if you need Giluyim to get Atzmos? So why was it only Shachcha? It should be Shachcha.
That was the lacha.
What again? Why do you mean Lacha? Why can it be that?
Moshe had to decide that you have to have Giluyim to get the Atzmos.